Hi, I'm Jason,
And I'm Lizette, and this is a special Route 66 series of Curious Caravan.
where we follow the trail of the Mother Road and dig up stories you won't find on souvenir postcards.
From giant roadside creatures to ghost towns with attitude, we're exploring it all. So let's go.
Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of Curious Caravan, and we're continuing our Route 66 series. This week, talking about Arizona. We're excited to have Bobby Marinelli joining us as a guest. Bobby was the director of Route 66, The Mother Road, a new series, and we're super excited to have you back, Bobby.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
Now, Arizona, when you think of Arizona's stretch of Route 66 compared to the other states from starting in Illinois and then, New Mexico and Kansas and Oklahoma and all of those, what stood out to you? Or like what pops into your head when it comes to Arizona's leg of Route 66?
The desert, the mountains, like it's funny how just the landscape changes so dramatically, and you're like, oh, this is the same country we're in.
Totally different background for sure. I know that you started off in Winslow, Arizona at the La Posada Hotel, which opened in the 1930s. It's known for its railroad history, but it's on old Route 66. It's near historic downtown. What can you tell us about this hotel particular that stood out to you?
So the Posada was actually like a railroad station. And
Hmm.
then this big like government office that I mean the station was actually like really typical what you would see in Arizona, like Native
Um,
American inspired
yeah,
Like
Pueblo.
Adobes, yeah, and
Yes,
Pueblos.
yes. And I'm butchering the terminology, but it's that's the kind of vibe that you get from it.
Hmm.
And what happened was it became like an office in the 70s, and they kind of like just put drywall up all over everything and just made it into a cold office building with no character. And
Mm.
then I think in the 90s, these artists came in and just took it back. They got it on some kind of like government grant for the arts program. They transformed it and kind of like carved out all the drywall and got back to what the original architecture was and just discovered this like just beautiful building and then just put their artwork in it and made it this creative space and just artist community. It's like a living museum hotel. It would be amazing to stay there. It's a really just wonderful like boutique hotel experience with like a
Hmm.
world-class museum inside of it.
so
That's
definitely a good
cool.
place, to stay overnight on a Route 66
100%.
road trip. So I know you guys took a detour to Flagstaff, Arizona, and did their Flagstaff Underground tour, which apparently Flagstaff has a ton of Wild West history and folklore and like a whole underground history about it. Was there anything that stood out while you're along the route?
Totally. Yeah, no, it's a great tour because Flagstaff just has all these basements and there was all these tunnels that went through it and like the gangsters and Old West like criminals and you could imagine all kinds of underground
Sure.
things were going on in these
Hmm.
in this system of tunnels and everything. Most of the tunnels are all like closed off for a ton of really good reasons, safety wise and everything like that. But you could
Oh.
go down in the basement and see kind of like the directions and everything that they ran. Our tour guide was this really charismatic gentleman. And then part of like that tour, they also do ghost tours. So we
Oh,
had
wow.
this
Oh.
other yeah, so we had this other guy that was with us that was, I think, waiting for like his turn to like do his portion of the tour or whatever, but we weren't being very like ghost oriented. We were sticking to the classic tour. But he had a ghost hunting contraption that was some piece of an Xbox
Oh.
system that like was a camera and he had a computer around his neck and was like taking 3D scans of the area to show us like what kind of spirits and everything were around us. And it was just funny because it wasn't part of the tour. It was just like we had this ghost man with us.
Was there apparently any paranormal activity happening along your
Yeah.
tour?
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what we're looking at. He showed us like on the screen, there were things, but it could have been like
A cold
dust or
pocket.
My problem is I would have believed him 100%. I'm like, oh, leaning in on the ghost part.
Yeah, no,
I'll
I'm a
say
little
the
more
guy
skeptical.
he was an expert in his field. Absolutely.
He's like, where's Ghost Adventures when you need it?
That's fun.
Well, that was the thing too. Like Ghost Adventures had filmed with one of the paranormal shows had filmed with both of our guide and this other guide.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Yeah, so they had a lot to say about it.
So I know up next, you guys stopped at like pure Western nostalgia at the Wigwam Motel, which I feel like if you're doing a Route 66 road trip, you have to stop at one. And I mean, just for people who don't know, the Wigwam Motel, it's literally giant wigwams that you can stay in. And they're super, super cool, very, very retro. What can you tell us about this spot that makes it so fun and that makes you want to stay there?
I wish we could have stayed in them. They were really cool. I mean, it's not much more, it's a hotel room, a
Sure.
circular hotel room, but they're really well, maintained and preserved. And there's these cool little kitschy things. It's part of the petrified forest.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah.
yeah, inside of the like hotel lobby, there's a museum full of the coolest petrified wood that you could imagine, like giant logs. The property's decorated in these petrified logs that you just wouldn't believe the size of. We got to talk to, I think his name was Chester, but the Lewis family basically built these wigwams. It was just one of those things. Like a lot of the places along Route 66, they have just this place in history. And because of the rerouting of the road, one thing or another, there's just this like passion for these places and the legacy that these places have, that you meet really interesting people who will devote their lives to just maintaining these places and sharing it. And so that's one of the takeaways that my team got, was just you could sit and talk with these people all day and they'll just tell you about the travelers and all the people that have, you know what I'm saying, that they've
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
relationships with as they come through. And it's just really special, like the effort and the work that is put into, they really just deserve a visit, even if you can't stay in a wigwam.
Even if you can't stay in a, you can't stay at a wigwam, visit the other
You
places,
can.
but
You
no, I mean
You
you
can.
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 We did it.
What one thing that really stands out to me just in learning about Route 66 in general is just the strength of the community that there is. Not only just the people who love to travel Route 66, but the people who run the various attractions and roadside stops. There's such a strong sense of community amongst all of them. Even though some of them are so spread out, it's still connected, in a way of, keeping the spirit of Route 66 alive. But that's one thing that really stands out to me, is there's such a strong community that's dedicated to keeping
Very
these
much
sites.
so. Yeah, and you end up realizing, like, I don't even know how they communicate, but it's just like a living network, because a lot of these places are like, oh, we heard you were coming through here, and they're like, oh, there's another. Like while we were on the road, there was also a group of Ford Model A's, like 20 of them that were doing the same trip as us.
Oh,
So like
wow.
people were
Oh.
like, "Oh, have you run into the Model A's yet?" And just like it's a like network that communicates, and they talk to one another, the different places, and you kind of it's really cool.
I
They've
kind of
got
like
a
imagine like them on like one of those old school radios. Like they're like,
Yeah, ham
over,
radio.
over, the filming people are on their way over, like connecting through their Morse code.
It's
No,
it's
that's
either that or it's an X Files episode. They're like a
extra.
hive mind where they all
The Route
just
66
think,
X-Files.
yeah.
The way
That's
your two minds go, I went straight to group chat.
no, that's not. No, that's
Too modern.
too modern,
Yep.
Lizette.
Sorry.
Um, so speaking of iconic Route 66, next up, I know you went to Navajo County and to the Jackrabbit Trading Post, which I know that this is like the historic, it's convenience store, curio shop. You can't miss it because of the giant yellow sign with the hair on it. But what can you tell us about this spot?
Yeah, Jackrabbit's really fun because like when you get to Arizona, you kind of get into that like, you're going to be traveling like 50, 60 miles without where there's nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you're
Yeah.
like waiting for that gas station or that stop to get out and like stretch and everything. But Jackrabbit, I think what made them really like iconic is them just making a game of Route 66. So like you'll see all along 66 these signs, and it's just a yellow sign. It doesn't say anything except like a miles, like 150
Sure.
miles, and then there'll just be a black jackrabbit silhouette, and they're all over. And it gets you curious. You're like, what are these? And then leading up to the trading post, you'll start seeing signs on the side of the road that get you there. And then you're there, and you're at the trading post, and you get off, and it's just this really like charming little shop full of memorabilia and jackrabbit memorabilia and everything like that. And then what you find out, and what is an insider trip for anyone that's going to be taking Route 66, is that those signs that have the mileage and the jackrabbit, if you photograph them, and I think it's if you bring like 10 photographs of different places, you show them to the owners of Jackrabbit, and they bring out this big wheel, and you get to spin it, and then they give you a prize of whatever you spend.
Oh, did you
Yeah.
spin the wheel?
Well, we were too late. We should have been paying attention, but we were there for another customer that brought photos and got to spin the wheel, so it was really
Oh,
fun.
did they win? What did they win?
I think they won a T-shirt or something like that. There was a bunch of prizes. One of them, they have like cactus. There's like a jelly or a jam made out of this
Oh,
cactus
okay.
flower.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
wow.
there's a ton of cool stuff, and a lot of like these little trading posts are really cool because the merchandise in there, the things that you could buy, are actually items that are designed and manufactured by Native Americans. So
Wow.
Oh,
it's
nice.
a fun way to kind of engage with that community and buy some stuff.
So, speaking of gift shops along Route 66, I know that in Kingman, you went to the iconic Giganticus Heticus, which for people, it's a gift shop that has a giant 14-foot tall, like tiki style head. So that's the Giganticus Heticus. What was your reaction to this spot? I mean, it's funny to me, like it's kind of bizarre, like when you see it, but it's super cool. Like, how would you best describe it?
It's another one of those things where you're just driving forever, and then all of a sudden there's a
Son.
thing to stop at.
Mhm.
This one, I have to say, like the owner Greg, he was one of the most excited people to like greet us and have us see him. So enthusiastic. But this is one of those things where like this guy found this plot of land and was able to purchase it and just had like a vision in his head. And he's like, I have to build this giant. It almost looks like an Easter Island head. It looks
I
like
was
the thing
thinking that.
Squidward lives in
Exactly what I was
on
thinking.
SpongeBob. So he just thought it up, and he's like, I have to build it. And he figured it out on his own and built this giant thing. And then that's what's there. And he built just a little gift shop around it. And you stop. It's got a beautiful view of the desert because it's got some elevation to it. And there's some people that live on the property and you can stay. But yeah, it's just one of those things. And that's like what's really cool about 66 is some things you find and it's somebody wanted to build something to attract people into their business. And then there's just some places that somebody just wanted to express themselves artistically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Found
and
a
I can.
place to do it, did it, and they get an audience because of it.
Sometimes it's such a relief to find these places because I've done the road trip, like I've done the Los Angeles to Florida trip a couple times, and it is true, like in Arizona particularly, you'll go forever and you're wondering if like you slipped into like a Twilight Zone alternate dimension. So like, to actually have a spot, you're just like, it's almost relief. Like, I don't care that it's a gigantic tiki head. This is interesting. Happy to get out and stop for a minute
Yeah.
just to see other humans. But yeah, that's fun. And I know that also in Kingman, you stopped at the Hackberry General Store, which was again originally operated by artist Bob Waldemir. He got
Yep.
around on this route for sure when it came to setting up these different places.
Everyone's got a Waldemar story on 66.
But I know that this was kind of like a favored stop amongst old 66 with travelers.
So the Hackberry General Store is just like authentic, it's
Sure.
the real deal. It was there. It didn't ask to be a Route 66 attraction, but it is because of how real it is. And it's one of
Hmm.
those things like it was the only thing along this path for miles and a waypoint for direction and you know what I'm saying? Knowing
Yeah.
where you are before you had cell phones and everything like that. And then somewhere to get a refreshment and everything, but became a collection of a lot of things 66. So the inside of it is just like wall to ceiling. I don't want to say like memorabilia, but like history, right? It's not
Hmm.
Mhm.
tacky. It's full of like, there's just endless things to look at and you could really just get lost inside of there. It is a functioning store, so you could get your soda, you could get your bumper sticker, anything you want like that. But then what's really cool is it's just like an absolute perfect photo opportunity. Just every little, it couldn't have been better like designed.
Hmm.
Just little vignettes of a classic car, a cactus, an old fence, just strange things. But Arizona, things are so arid that like these classic cars are just perfectly just like patinaed and
Mm.
like made to look like the photograph that you want to take when you know what I'm saying? You're making a book cover for Route 66. So it's
Yeah.
really like just a great opportunity. And then there'll just be like a guy playing electric guitar outside. So it's
Yeah.
a really cool spot.
Now, rounding out Arizona, which what I think is kind of one of the more unique experiences, I know you went to Oatman, Arizona, and their historic Main Street, which is pretty much like your textbook definition of the Wild West. And from what I understand, there's not only like wild burros, aka wild donkeys, roaming the streets, but sometimes they do some fun staged gunfights. So, what was that experience like in Oatman?
So this was one of those, like this was toward the end of our trip. And we had kind of like the excitement of like knowing where we were going had kind of passed. So we weren't really like checking. And so our drive started, you come into the Black Mountains in
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, and you're just like, oh, this is a cool little drive. And then it just turns into this 30-minute drive that's just the most spectacular thing that you've ever done. It's like everything's a wonderful photograph. So we're coming through the mountains and we're all just know we have to get to this place, Oatman, that's an
Mm-hmm.
old West town. So then in the mountains, we're like, oh, wait, I see an animal. So then we pull over and we spend another like 10, 15 minutes trying to get a shot of this elusive donkey in the mountains. We're all excited about it. And we got like an okay shot. We're like, all right, let's move on. So then we like get on the road and we come over a ridge into this little old West town. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just 24 burros, just donkeys all over. There's just people pulled over and walking in the street, and then just donkeys walking all over like they own the town, in and out of gift shops, in and out of every building. And they're totally docile. You could walk up and pet them. They walk up to your car as soon as you park because they think you might have food for them. You buy little pellets and just feed them out of your hand. Again, we weren't expecting this. So it was just absolutely like shocking because I don't think I've ever seen a donkey in my life. You know?
Oh.
Especially one just deciding, they take up residence in the middle of
Yeah.
the street. And do the locals, I guess they're just used to it, right? These donkeys just wander the streets.
Yeah, it's very much like that's what the town's about. It used to be like a coal mining town or
I think
I
it
don't
was
know what
gold
elements
mining.
they're mining. But yeah, they had all these burros for work. And then when the mining operation ended, they all got left there and just kind of became wild burros. And because
Oh.
people stop through and feed them, they're really tame and they know that they could hang out in these streets. So there's like one male that runs the streets, and then he has a harem of female burros and babies. And then if one of the young men gets old enough to challenge the alpha will kick his ass and run him out of town, or the young one will take over and be the young buck alpha. But
Wow.
it's funny, like just the locals telling you the stories of like burro fights in the streets and like the wild
Oh
stuff
my
that,
It's
goodness.
that you
like
can imagine they see.
like the Burrow Gestapo running
Exactly.
open.
We didn't catch any of that,
Oh,
but we did. We were there for like a spectacular sunset, and the
oh
way the
wow.
sun like falls along the ridges, it just lights these mountains up like
Mm-hmm.
just glowing red. It's really something to see.
That sounds like a place to definitely check out if you want to see the wild donkeys, feed some wild donkeys. It's like, a petting zoo and a historic town all rolled into one.
Exactly.
Um,
That's my number one recommendation for like anyone on the West Coast.
well, thank you so much, Bobby, for joining us again and discussing all things Route 66, especially this Arizona edition. We appreciate having you.
Yeah. Thanks,
You
Bobby.
got
This
it.
was great.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure. We hope you enjoyed the journey as much as we did.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review Curious Caravan on your favorite podcast platform. It helps more curious minds like you find us.
And if you're hungry for more, follow us on social for extra content and behind the scenes sneak peeks.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep being curious, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Curious Caravan.